Welcome to Meditating with John Vervaeke. Sorry about the slight delay on our start this morning. We had a minor technical glitch, which my techno god Amar solved very readily. So, as I mentioned, I'm John Vervaeke. I'm a cognitive psychologist and a cognitive scientist at the University of Toronto. I study phenomena like mindfulness scientifically, experimentally. And I study related phenomena like insight, flow, mystical experience, the cultivation of wisdom, transformative experience, etc. I've also been a practitioner of Vipassana meditation, metta contemplation, and Tai Chi Chuan for 29 years, and I've taught those three professionally for almost 20 years. This is a progressive course. If you're joining us for the first time, you're of course welcome to stay, but I recommend you go back and look at the previous teaching sessions. So that's like day 1, day 3, and Monday's previous one. We'll start labeling the videos that are teaching sessions, and you can catch up. And there was one yesterday as well. You can catch up on the principles that have been taught, and then join us as you wish. We do meet every day at 9:30 a.m. every weekday. We do not meet on Saturdays and Sundays. We meet every weekday, Mondays through Fridays, and there is a teaching session every Monday. So Monday is Dharma Day. I will teach you a principle, take you through an exercise so you get a direct experiential understanding, and explain to you how you can incorporate it into your practice and build on the previous skills and sensitivities that I've helped you to cultivate. So today is not a teaching day. Today is just a sitting day. But even on the sitting days, after we sit, I'll do a quick review of where we're at. And even on the sitting days, and as well, there will be a period at the end for Q&As. So it's a good idea, first of all, to meet in the sits. We have good research that if you sense that you're meeting with other people, you will keep up a practice where it's much more difficult to do this on your own. And also, there will be the review. And probably most importantly, while you're learning, there will be the Q&As. So attending the sits is also a very good idea. And one other thing, and I'm very pleased to see this, in the Buddhist tradition, we talk about the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. The Sangha is a community, and a community is starting to form. And a community is very, very helpful for getting people into a transformative way of life. Please set your phones to do not disturb, so you can give your full attention to this practice. I'll now do a quick review. The first lesson was about finding your center, front to back, side to side with your torso, your head, into your center, really savoring it, then centering your attention by stepping back and looking at your mind, labeling your distractions with an ing word, returning your attention to your breath, centering your attitude, neither fighting nor feeding that distracting monkey mind. The second lesson, teaching session, was on rooting, the appropriate form of relaxation, not a relaxation that takes you into sleep, but that takes you into mindfulness. And we had, 3 lines, front, center, and back, where we did the process of looking, listening, loosening, letting it flow, letting it go, finding your root. Then we learned how to find our flow in meditation. We did that in the abdomen, expanding both across and in interoceptive awareness, noticing different kinds of sensation, putting a real challenge on our attention, really deeply integrating introspection and interoception together. We did that here, the heart area, the shoulders, the back, and then one flow, so that we have a peripheral awareness. We're following the whole of the breath through the whole of the torso. Our focal awareness is in our dantian, where we're without forcing it, trying to do baby breathing. And we have a focal awareness here and a field awareness throughout our bodies. Yesterday, we learned about the proper right concentration, and it's in the Eightfold Path that there's right concentration, which means there's wrong concentration. We're trying to break, and it will take time. We're trying to break the habit of the concentration we have learned, which is people yelling at us, us pulling our mind in from the outside, sticking it onto something. Instead, we pursued the idea of the correct form of concentration is a constant noticing, a constant renewing of interest, a trying to be, not just being present, but being present, not just being present to, but being present in and through and with our stimulus, constantly opening it up with soft vigilance, the term that Ellen Langer introduced. We do that, of course, by after we begin meditation, we count our breaths, not because we're entering into any judgment. What we're doing is we count our breaths so that when we are distracted, we take a quick moment and note, that's what it was like to have that continuity, that momentum of mindfulness, that entering the stream. All right, so that's the review. So please remember always in that order to find your center, find your root, find your flow, find your focus. Don't hyperventilate. Don't force your breathing, right? You have to sometimes make minor adjustments if you feel like you've lost your center, right? If you're having a more pressing distraction, try initially, like maybe 3 or 4 times, to just label and return to the breath. If it gets to be too compulsive, though, right? Remember the principle. We're befriending ourselves. We do not want to be merely enduring. Okay, this is an educational situation, not an imprisonment situation. So if you get a pain and you've tried it 4 times to label it, return to the breath, and it's just getting overwhelming, then do what you need to do to alleviate it, and then return to your breath. All right. I think that's everything so that we can get started. It's wonderful to be with all of you here today. It's a beautiful sunny day in Toronto, which is a nice uplift. Given this situation, we're all in. All right, everyone, let's prepare to sit. We will begin when I say begin. Begin. slowly begin to come out of your practice, trying as best you can to integrate what you cultivated in your practice with your everyday consciousness and cognition. So we'll take some questions now. The first is from Nicholas Amakurit, who asks questions pretty much every day. It's good to hear from you, Nicholas. And the question of the day is, you liked your striped t-shirts, eh? I guess. I haven't really thought about it that much. I'll also go through a phase where I'll be wearing a solid colored shirts. I'm trying to, for obvious reasons of social distancing, I'm sort of trying to go through all of my wardrobe right now to reduce the laundry. I live in an apartment, and so the laundry is communal, so I have to stretch things out to try and reduce social distancing. So that's why you'll see maybe a variety of shirts than I normally present. Rainer Ludwig, is your meditation technique and methodology uniquely yours, which you've developed over years of practice and study, or have you needed influence by other teachers teaching? Both. I was taught, as I said, by what was called the Tai Chi and Meditation Center, and I was taught by 3 different teachers, the Vipassana, the Metta, and the Tai Chi Chuan over an extended period. I also have done some online stuff. I've read a tremendous amount on these areas, but I also, as I've mentioned, and this is a huge influence, I do a lot of cognitive scientific and cognitive psychological investigation and bringing that to bear. So it's a combination both of what I've been taught, 3 things. It's a combination of what I've been taught by teachers, what I've learned through scientific investigation, and my own practice. So there's sort of three sources coming together in, I hope, a way that's accessible and valuable to others. Discipline of Ra asks, this is my 3rd day taking part, and I've noticed that I caught myself growing impatient, and I'd opened my eyes before the 15-minute mark. Is this normal? Yes, very much. Your brain wants to get you into, so we have a tremendous familiarity bias. Your brain always is trying to get you into a very familiar state. We talked about this before with the notion of encoding specificity. Your brain does not only store facts, it stores the context in which facts are stored, and it fuses those together, and it really lets your context, familiar ways of being situated in your mind and body, because of course that gives high survival value. If it's familiar, it's highly predictive, etc. And so your brain will try, right, when you're trying to get in between falling asleep, which is familiar to you, and moving around, which is familiar to you, and even daydreaming, which is familiar to you. When you're trying to, get between all of those, it's a very novel and unfamiliar place. And your monkey mind doesn't like it, your brain doesn't like it. And so, yes, there'll be quite a bit of to try and get you out. I know what that's like, and it's very familiar to people. Don't beat yourself up about it. When you come out, try to notice what's going on, be mindful of it, and then try to go right back in if you can. And then next time you get the impulse, see if you can label it for maybe 4 or 5 breaths before you have to go into it. And again, like always, slowly try to erode away the resistance until you afford change. This is from Road Jonas. Do you know whether THC CBD enhances the meditative practice or not? No, I do not. I suspect it might not because what I know about this is it tends to have a tunneling effect on attention, which may seem like it's improving your focus, but generally what it's doing is it's actually reducing the capacity to open up in a disciplined manner. And it tends to perhaps conduce towards being a little bit more amotivational, which might be a challenge for continuing on in this practice. And thirdly, I strongly recommend trying not to do that much additional change to your psychophysiology because of encoding specificity. If you're inducing a particular psychophysiological state with pharmacological intervention, the problem there is your brain is going to fuse that state with the mindfulness practice, which will make it hard for you to transfer it to your life in general. Christelle Rebuilt, this is my second day and I can't help but laugh after 9 to 10 breaths. Is this normal? Yes, that's another instance of what I described yesterday. So if you go, Christelle, yesterday, maybe you were here yesterday, that's another example of that parasympathetic rebound phenomenon. Don't worry about your sanity or anything like that. Just label it and return to the breath. Just allow it to be part of how you're practicing. Hi, Mark. Mark Lefebvre is back. Any tips for coming out of meditation? Seems like something helpful if there are some standard strategies to help integrate it into our lives. I will definitely be teaching you later the specific class on integration and what you can do. Right now, try to remember what I said about trying to open your eyes and continue that state of mind and body. Now, try this. Try to set up a marker for yourself, perhaps whenever you put your hand in your pocket or whenever you go through a doorway. And what those markers are is they're like a little call to meditation. And when you do that, when you encounter, like I'm going through a doorway, you stop and you do a quick, now don't do the whole thing because it'll take a long time, just as close as you can, a quick centering and rooting, a sense of coming into the flow of your body and mind, and do like maybe a 1 or 2 breath Vipassana. Do that throughout the day. And then when you do that breath, and then come and see if you can carry it forward as you're walking around. But like I say, later we'll come back to a specific set of practices you can do for cultivating integrity, where integrity doesn't just mean sort of a moral thing. It means more specifically the practice of integrating what you're cultivating in your practice with your everyday life. Kira Kroger, yesterday I asked about crying. Thank you for the language of the struggle between the sympathetic and parasympathetic. I've been practicing for a year and never had that language. Thank you. You're welcome, Kira. I'm glad that's helpful. This is an example, and I'm not trying to be overly self-promotional, but this is an example of how understanding the cognitive science can be of great benefit in the teaching, right, and the learning of mindfulness practices. My question is, if I notice that struggle is strong and I'm having trouble coaxing the puppy back to the breath, do you have any suggestions for dealing with that? One of the things we're going to talk about so on Monday, we're going to learn meta contemplation. And then the day after, the next lesson, we'll start what's called, there'll be 2 might want to do is, right, if that struggle is getting too much, then maybe, reroute. Tap into the fact that you started to build up some skilled momentum for the rooting and then centering. Recenter, even if you're not off-centered, recenter, reroute, reflow again, and count your breath again before simply just trying to maintain your Vipassana. So do that for now. But as I said, I wish I could teach you everything all at once, but unfortunately we're human beings and we have to learn through time. But we will have specific things that I will teach you about how to deal with both distractions, hindrances, things that cause you to resist taking up your practice. Andre Affair, as well as getting led away from focusing on my breath by my mic and I realizing it, labeling and returning, I've also noted that I tend to zone out and almost forget that I'm meditating. Is that okay? Should I label zoning out forgetting? Yes, label that. And catching yourself from zoning out, that's sort of, that's the trippy monkey mind. Instead of chattering, right, as distraction, it sort of lulls you into, right, zoning out and losing that continuity of contact with your breath. Definitely label that, come back. You might want to re-engage flow because it might be also that your brain is trying to take you towards sleep, okay? This is from McCready. Any tips on keeping your breath natural? When I'm focusing on the breath, I tend to force my breathing. And when I notice I've returned to natural breathing, I start to force it again. Yeah, so this is a difficulty some people face. So one of the things that I recommend this for other reasons, but one of the things that's very helpful for this is to get into a moving mindfulness practice where you center your attention, where your breath will be regulated, right, with the practice, but the focus of your attention, for example, is on movement. I strongly recommend, and there's online courses, you take up some Qigong or some Tai Chi, because those moving mindfulness practices help to break up that sort of self-fulfilling prophecy of anxiety around the breath. And then once you get that moving mindfulness, and you can sort of focus on your body in a different way, and your breathing is natural, you can build up a different association between mindfulness and breath in the body. So if this is a pervasive issue for you, you need to consider taking that up. Nick Kennedy. Hi, Nick. Good to see you again. Should our counting be resting at a count of 10 or continue until we are away from it? When should we go back to only following our breath? Yeah, a count of around 10 is a good idea. I think that's good. If you feel that you get it, I can't tell you this, but when you get that sense that you're getting that momentum of mindfulness, that it starts becoming a self-organizing process rather than a process you're forcing into place, it will be a long time before that's completely the case. But if you got a sense that at least some of your attention is now self-organizing rather than forced, then you've counted for long enough. So sorry if I rushed through some of those questions, and I'm not trying to be insensitive. What I was trying to do today is try and answer as many questions as I can, because I won't see you guys again until Monday. Thank you for joining. It's always appreciated. As I said, building a Sangha together is really important. As always, I want to thank Amar and Jason for their help. Please subscribe to the video channel to be notified of the next video. Also, on my channel, you'll find a lot of relevant material for how to situate this practice into a more broadly reaching ecology of practices, how you can, maybe confront some of the broader issues facing us with a more resilient and adaptive framing. And so this is all there to try and provide help and afford people's transformation and resilient responsiveness. As I said, we're doing this every weekday morning at 9:30 EST. And I'll see you all on Monday for our next Dharma session, and where we will learn about metta contemplation. Thank you very much for your time.